Hey Zwifters, I'm Simon Schofield and this is the Zwiftcast. Coming up on this episode, the author of 100 Greatest Climbs and more Greatest Climbs tackles the Alpe du Zwift for the first time. What does he make of it versus real life? Academy winner Tanja Erath gets her racing legs ready for the Tour de Yorkshire. Plus, Gillian Bearden, the transgender athlete at the centre of the huge fuss that engulfed Team Fearless. Well, it's been ages, but here they are. G'day, Shane Miller. How are you, mate? It's been a long time.
Oh, it's been a long time. I'm very, very well. Looking forward to getting stuck into episode 49, Simon.
Yeah, episode 49. Time marches on, hey? Nathan, it's been kind of slightly less of a long time. We were actually physically together, but this is the first time we've done a Zwiftcast where we've kind of all been back in our home places. How's things with you? Yo, dude, I should say.
Things are going good, real good. Definitely good to be back home for a little while and catching up with the fam. So excited to get on with again episode 49. That's we've been doing quite a few of these. It looks like.
I know. But as ever, rarely short of anything to talk about. Shane, I think the thing that's been keeping you away from home most recently has been this big Tour of Australia, which kind of kicks off the indoor season, the indoor Zwifting season in your part of the world. I see you wearing a fleece today. I suspect the weather's got a bit cooler, has it? So the mini Tour of Oz, lots of different parties, lots of different cities. How was it?
Busy and hectic. So I missed out on the New Zealand one. That was a little bit too far for me to jump over the pond for that one, but I did cover the Melbourne event, the Sydney event, and the Brisbane event. And yeah, really, really good. It's the third year running, I think Zwift have been back around this time because, yeah, as you see now, I'm rugging up. It's coming into our winter. It's perfect time for people to be like looking around with, what am I going to be doing all winter? Well, you can be riding on Zwift. So they come and showcase what's new. And they did. And yeah, good times, good food, and lots of good times set up the KOM. And with Gold Rush, they were using the Gold Rush little feature of Zwift to ride around and just sort of showcase that. And people had a lot of fun. So yeah, lots of good times.
Okay. Now, one thing I did notice on the Australian and NZ tour was the KickrClimb. In strong evidence there at the events, and people got the chance to use it, which is just about the only chance that anybody has got to ride the climb, as far as I can see. Because I do think it looks to me as though Wahoo are going for some kind of world record here, and there'll be one complete cycle of Eurobike, because Eurobike's coming up. I mean, it's like 4-6 weeks away now. It's not far away. Yep. And there is still no sign of the climb. I mean, you can't buy a climb, I went on a website in the UK and it was the old coming soon thing. And they did have a date on it, but it looked to me as though somebody just picked a date out of the air, actually. And that date was July. I mean... WTF, I think is probably what I want to say, Shane. I mean, have you got any idea what's going on inside Wahoo? I mean, to be fair, they're not normally like this.
No, usually Wahoo are pretty good. Usually when we see something announced at Eurobike, it's available straight away. It's like the Apple releases when a new phone comes out or a new watch comes out. You can buy it right now or you can pre-order within a few weeks. The climb itself... Yeah, what the shipping is going on with that? We don't know. I do know though that there are a number of firmware updates coming out almost daily for this. So I've got mine here. I'm doing the testing, sending the feedback back, and quite enjoying it. It's rock solid, and it's been up Alpe du Zwift a few times. I don't know what's going on. I mean, when you think about it, it's a simple device. It goes up, it goes down. That's about it. Smart trainers do a lot more than that. So I don't know. To be honest, don't know.
I'm tempted to say, what the hell are the point of firmware updates are when you can't even get the damn hardware? I mean, but you've no insight on this. I mean, do you think it's just like production problems?
There must be something behind the scenes going on, because with these devices, even though I just simplified it by going up and down, these things use the power pack is twice as big as a Kickr, and it does use quite a bit of power, because if you've got to lift 40, 50, 60 kilos up and down and be responsive, there's a lot going on underneath this little thing. So they might have bitten off a little bit more than they can chew. But I don't think this will be the first time we see Eurobike be more of an announcement show than a launch show. I think that's what Eurobike's going to be this year. We shall see. But look, I really hope to see these shipping soon. I've been having a lot of fun on mine. I'm sure a lot of people who are after the premium experience will want the KickrClimb. Oh, and it doesn't just climb as well. It goes down too. So it's a kicker up and down. I think it's probably more accurate. But hopefully soon. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. 60 kilos, Shane. 60 kilos and the rest, I think, actually. I mean, I think they'll be legislating for at least double that. Anyway, I did hear you say, just in the course of that little, not particularly illuminating discussion about where the hell the climb is, that you've finally been up Alpe du Zwift. So the world awaits, Shane. The world awaits your verdict. Well, let's start with your time, actually. Come on. What was your time?
Oh, okay. I've done it 5 times now, but officially it's only 4 because one of the times I was trying to get a good camera angle and I accidentally hit the down button when I was not in camera 0 and it spun me around and the timer disappeared. So that achievement of riding up 5 times hasn't been unlocked. I'm going to have to do it 6 officially. My time, 53 minutes flat. I think I can shave a bit off that. Like everyone, I think they'll set a time and go, I can go quicker than that. So that's me at the moment. That's me thinking I could be quicker than 53, but that's my stake in the ground for now.
No, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. It's a damn sight quicker than me, that much is for sure. Nathan, you had your eyes on the 45 prize, have you not? Or were you actually thinking you could get sub 40? Where are you now?
Yeah, the sub 40. Sub 40 was what I was thinking about. But I since last time we talked, training has gone out the window. So we're aiming for a late
Hang on, here we go.
Summer
Training. Yep. Late summer.
But okay, I did give it a good crack recently, and about halfway up, I don't know if there was a signal in the room or
Excuse
coming in. And it was one
incoming
of those,
excuse.
It was one of those moments.
Incoming.
And
We're
signal.
talking about
Got it.
Eurobike. Wait a second. You're talking about Eurobike. This is actually relevant. Where are the hardwired trainers?
Yeah.
I was swearing at night. I mean, I don't swear a whole lot, guys, and I was really mad. Okay, like 30 dropouts at a certain point. And I had a really good time. I thought I was really like timing each one of the critical moments where you really have to go over threshold where it matters. And I was like, oh, this is a great time. I kept on hitting personal best on each of the thing. The next thing you know, it was like drop out. And my avatar's just sitting there. My heart rate's 180 beats per minute. We've all been there. Like, but anyways, what I still don't have the wheels. I don't know what is going on there. I'm getting close to 25, I think. I've done nothing but Zelp attempts pretty much every time I ride Zwift. And I don't know if it's like something against level 25ers that they built into the drop rate or what's going on. But I'm like, I got like legendary weapons in World of Warcraft easier than these freaking wheels.
Yeah, they do.
How many pairs of gloves, though? That's the question.
Too many. The wheels, I was going to say the mythical wheels. They're not actually mythical, but they kind of might as well be mythical. They're certainly pretty damn rare. Anyway, all this talk about the Alpe du Zwift leads us very nicely into our first feature, which is a man who really knows his climbing onions, took it on to test the veracity and realism of it. He's called Simon Warren. Here he is. Well, welcome to the Zwiftcast to Simon Warren. Simon, I've been wrestling with how to introduce you, and I've kind of finally settled on the man who knows more about legendary cycling climbs than anybody else in the world. I'll give you some air. Blow your own trumpet.
That may be stretching it a little bit. Set my stall out as the expert and documented over 500 of them now. So
yeah, and I mean these are reflected in visual spectacle in your wonderful books. 100 Greatest Climbs is probably the most famous, isn't it? Have you got more?
100 Climbs. That's the one that started it all. Yeah. 100 Great Cycling Climbs. We followed that with another 100 Greatest Cycling Climbs, which is the sequel.
Yeah.
So they're all still based in Britain. After that, we went really ambitious and did the 100 Greatest Climbs of the Tour de France. So I rode 100 mountains in one summer. Best summer I've ever had.
Well, I mean, that's a significant body of work. And I think we're now convinced that, when it comes to climbs, you know what you're talking about. So a British magazine asked you to do a piece which I read and saw was really, really fascinating because it was you tackling the Alpe du Zwift. And I mean, with your kind of heritage and knowledge of climbs, that was interesting. But what was also interesting is that you were new to Zwift.
I've had a long-standing relationship with outdoors. And every year I've ridden it at least once. So I've made that my thing now. I have to go to the Alpe once and then smash an effort out up. So I know it inside out. I'd never used Zwift. I have scoffed at people when it's a sunny day. Why are you on Zwift? Get outside,
Yeah.
why are you sitting inside? It's not real. But then the Alpe came up and I thought, now I'm really intrigued. I need to try this. So I put a little message out on Twitter. And then Matt Payne got back to straight. Okay, Simon, come use my setup. We had a familiarization session, which really I went away with my eyes like this. I mean, we don't play many computer games in this house, so I don't have much access to these sort of virtual worlds. It was like, this is awesome, It was immersive. It was a bit of a shock when you first ride it, especially the gradient changes.
Yeah. Because
you sort of, in a real road, you'll see it a bit more. So there was nuances which we had to get used to before we could actually have our attempt.
Yeah. From being a skeptic, you were kind of an instant convert, not to a substitution for outdoors. And, Zwift would never even say that they are that, but as a complement to outdoors.
Yeah, I've got a turbo and I don't use it as much, but I'll do intervals every now and again. And 45 minutes lasts a lifetime. You spend 2 hours on there and it just like that. So if you want to enjoy your time riding indoors and to have a focus to it and a purpose to it.
But then, the really interesting thing that you can, and perhaps only you can comment on, is how well they replicated Alpe d'Huez. So what did you find, given that you've been up and down this mountain more times than most of us have had hot dinners?
You say the last 5 or 6 years, since the advent of Strava, really, really trying to ride it hard to get a better time each time. I've sort of become quite tuned into the gradients, the rest you get around the corners and how you use that to rather, change up, push on, or just hold back and spin. And these are the things I wanted to test. So I was going, right, have they got this right? Have they got this right? Of course, your surroundings are completely different. You don't see the great views down into the valley and stuff. I was concentrating on was the tarmac and how it felt. And honestly, I think it was dead right. And the actual shape of the road was perfect. And I knew where I was. Always in my real life efforts, when I get to the bend 4, I just want it to end. And I'd paced it just right, and I was exactly the same thing. I had Matt there shouting at me, "Come on, Simon, come on."
Come on, Rex, come on, you can do 150 reps, you know you can, come on, all the way.
There's a lot more sort of road furniture around you, a lot more to distract you from the pure suffering, because that's a really long stretch.
See the gantry, come on, massive splash, come on.
Yeah, then 3 to 2, and then 1 was just turmoil.
Come on, kick. Ah! I'm really well done, mate. Ah!
So I finished with, I think on the Zwift segment, 43.50. Whereas my time in real life is 49.45. But I thought it was bang on, and I was really, really impressed. So I just want to know what they're working on next.
Oh, everybody wants to know that.
Yeah, I want to see when's the Tourmalet turning up, when's Von 2 turning up. So yeah.
It's always great to hear a convert, because those of us who've got the kilometres in on Zwift do kind of know how useful it is. And, particularly someone like you, like I say, with your intimate knowledge of mountains and hills and climbs. Really, really great to talk to you, Simon. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Viewers and listeners who might be wanting to take some of that indoor fitness outside this summer, perhaps to the great climbs of the Tour, might be interested in Simon's app. It uses your phone's GPS to navigate you to the base of climbs, keeps score of how many you've done, allows you to check the climb's fact file and see who is the current KOM or QOM, a very useful tool for the travelling grimpeur. Well, that was interesting, really interesting. I mean, he beat his real lifetime, but there could be two words that explain that, Shane, which might be the words tax and vortex. They are known for being just a fraction generous, I think, the vortex, aren't they?
Yeah, calibration is very, very important. I'll say that for sure.
Now, Nathan, I'll come to you on this. My views on the Alpe du Zwift are well known. I think it's a magnificent achievement, and I think they've done an amazing job on getting a long climb into the game. However, those sector stats that have popped up recently, I mean, I just don't understand them. I don't understand what they are or what their purpose is, and I just don't understand them. I mean, am I being really dumb, or are they next to useless?
They are confusing as you climb, it seems like to me, each section. They make sense to me that they are your personal best for that pass, that number.
Yeah, but then you've got to memorize that personal best, haven't you? Because
yes,
because all of a sudden
the personal
goes
best
away.
Then disappears. It disappears. So it's like
it's ridiculous in my opinion too.
Yeah, what I want to know is where I stand right at the moment, right now, against my personal best. Now, unless I've memorized that, I mean, it must be said here, I'm not good with numbers. Numbers and words are my thing. Numbers are not my thing. But even for somebody who is good with numbers, to actually expect people to memorize a number, keep it in their head, and then, let's be honest, it doesn't work, does it? This thing doesn't work at the moment.
It gets really frustrating. So I see it, and I'm like, these are the numbers coming up. But then when it matters most, like when you're climbing for the KOM and you can see what the time is you're chasing while you see your time up there.
Yeah.
Now, I do know that this was, this wasn't released with the Alpe du Zwift. And then it was released afterwards. And I think it probably will have another release coming. So I think they really wanted to get it out there. And I think that there's probably, now I have no inside info about this or anything besides that I know that it was supposed to go with the initial release, hopefully, but didn't make it. And then came a little bit later. So maybe this is like, 1.0 on it and we'll get a 1.1. And I'm assuming that we'll have a new one where you can see your current time and your best time next to each other, because right now I agree with you. It's like, it's cool to see how you did and what your personal best is, but even then you don't know if you're seeing that after you get past it. You know what I mean? Like, am I still seeing my personal best or am I seeing my time from today?
It's
like,
Shane, it's just super confusing, isn't it? I mean, it's not, everything, what Zwift do very well is that thing that all modern software companies got to do, it's intuitive, but this just isn't.
Yeah, it's a little bit of information overload on the left-hand side of the screen there. It makes total sense, except for exactly the sector you're on right now. What I want to see is like there's a lot of information there, but not enough at the same time, if that makes sense. It just needs a little refinement, like that one extra number of where you are, even a countdown timer for your PB or how far you're off or something like that. Yeah, it's a tough one to have because there's a lot of information on the screen, but it's just the information that we want isn't there.
Yeah. Well,
I do like the concept. I'll say that.
Oh yeah,
the concept is great.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Don't get rid of it.
Agree.
Don't get rid of it. It's a great concept.
No, leave it there.
Yeah.
It carves the climb up just nicely, and we need that carved climb for sure.
Yeah. No. I mean, for sure, it's what everybody wants, and I think they do recognise that, and maybe this is just a first attempt, very intense, or maybe not so intense, But anyway, it kind of doesn't work at the moment, guys. But I'm sure you can make it work. One thing that has worked, kind of to my surprise, actually, because of the time commitments, is these extended tours that have been promoted in the events section. So the Tour of Utopia It was huge success. I mean, I've got some stats, actually. I'll edit them in afterwards. Right about here. So here come the stats. 20,000 Zwifters started the Tour of Watopia. 5,000 of them completed all 7 stages. About 50% used a makeup day to get the tour finished. And get this, 3 Zwifters did the entire tour just using makeup days. Okay, that was the stats. And that is a lot of people doing it. I mean, a really lot of people committing themselves to a huge undertaking, really. I mean, these successive things. Shane, you've been surprised by how successful these kind of things were? They did one for Tour of California as well.
Yeah, look, for sure. I was at an event on Saturday over in Adelaide. Again, a little continuation of my little Zwift tour for the winter season. And everybody who walked into the store and was talking Zwift, were talking to each other. Hey, have you done stage 3? Have you done stage 4 yet? Have you done stage 5? What was your time trial time? Everybody walking into the store who were riding outside were riding this tour. Yeah, really surprising, absolutely surprising, but great to see. It's a really good incentive. I did one back in December, the Tour of Bright here, a race that got cancelled. They quickly whipped something together in 3 or 4 stages, and away we went. And it really hooked me in. So I totally get it, and these are fantastic. I'd like to see more of them.
Yeah. Bit of a kind of sleeper hit, Nathan. This one, it sort of came from the success of it came from nowhere, really.
They made it suitable to everybody to just jump in anytime they need to. Right? On your schedule, when you need to jump into it, on the hour, every hour. I know that if I want to get mine done for the day, I can just jump on and do it. And okay, well, I couldn't make the 3, well, I can make the 4, and so it's always something to aim for at this time. And what's going on throughout these dates. And it's, if you don't have a coach plan, or you don't have something other that you're aiming at, it's something that's everybody's doing, you can jump into. I think it's great little format change that's getting people involved.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And like I say, it sort of, or maybe I just wasn't clued into it, but suddenly it was the one thing everyone was talking about, Tour of Watopia. So talking of tours, see what I did there. I spent some time at the Tour de Yorkshire, which is a huge event. I think it's a huge event on the cycling calendar now, actually. Certainly a huge event in my part of the world, because all the stages were within an hour or two of where I live, and the sun shone, and the helicopter shots of Yorkshire were absolutely beautiful. The racing was fantastic. So big up for the Tour de Yorkshire. It was a fantastic event. And I was lucky enough to spend some time at the Tour de Yorkshire with Tanja Erath, the winner of the Zwift Women's Academy last time. This was only her 3rd race. She'd crashed in her 2nd race. Was recovering from injury, and she was pretty keen to show well for her teammates at the Tour de Yorkshire, and so here's the story of how Tanja got on there. With equal prize money and live TV coverage, the Women's Tour de Yorkshire addresses both long-standing grievances of the women's peloton, making it an important date in the calendar.
To Canyon Shrine Racing!
For Canyon Shram, another bonus, an unusually swish hotel. Both male and female pros don't often get that. It's where I caught up with Zwift Women's Academy winner Tanja Erath as she got her pre-race massage on the eve of her 3rd pro race.
I would lie if I would say this feels like routine to me. Every single race that I do on this level is totally new. For sure, I'm nervous.
Taken out by another rider on a descent in her 1st race in Spain, the subsequent lower back injury hampered Tanya's early season training in Girona. But she bounced back to ride the Healthy Aging Tour in Holland.
That was pretty tough. The crosswinds were pretty heavy, and the race started, and with 3 seconds the peloton was split into several small groups. I couldn't support the team as I really wished to, so maybe like a disappointing experience. So I hope that now in Yorkshire, everything's better.
The early start to the women's stage left little time for nerves, but Tanja confesses that the crash has had an effect on her.
I don't feel uncomfortable in the bunch. I think that my crash from Valencia was a little bit in my mind, because as soon as I wanted to overtake the peloton on the left or the right side, I was afraid that somebody swings out and just takes me down again.
But the bunch is where Tanja will be today, undertaking the classic duties of a domestique, following the instructions of Director Sportif, Ronnie Lauker.
I wanted to protect our leading riders, cover them, protect them from the wind, bring them bottles. The goal is that you can contribute as much as possible to the team's success. These things, that is what we want to see from her.
This is Tanja's biggest goal, to prove herself to her teammates. It's her first race with today's road captain and experienced racer Tiffany Cromwell. Her opinion will count.
She's like so fresh into the sport, so she does want to learn. Like, we can't throw her in to say, yep, she's going to win. So I think she's embracing that role and using our expertise. And we want to help her develop, and she wants to make the most of this opportunity.
And today's high-profile race is a big opportunity. You'd forgive Tanja some nerves.
The last hour before the race is the worst, because then the nervousness rises. So I just want to start.
But with Christian Prudhomme, the Tour de France director, floating around the start, and live TV coverage, this isn't just any old race. Does the TV coverage affect anything, I wondered?
No, I don't think about it, actually. I think when I'm in the race, I'm in the race.
And in the race, 132 kilometres around the Yorkshire Wolds, with the sprint finish in Doncaster, Tanja was alert and attentive, always aware of her teammates' positions, shielding the protected riders, and chasing down attacks, following Ronnie's orders to the letter. Tanja's efforts didn't go unnoticed by the commentary team.
Once again, it's Tanja Erath from Canyon SRAM, the German rider who signed after she won a competition run by Zwift, the virtual racing program. It's all rage.
She will be quite inexperienced in a peloton, but obviously very strong.
So strong that it was Tanja who started the Canyon SRAM lead-out for the final sprint with 5k left to go. She crossed the line safely in the bunch, and I grabbed a word with her straight afterwards.
The last pull was all out, so yeah.
But do you think you did your job for the team today?
I think so. At least the girls said good job. I mean, they know that I still have to learn a lot, but it's good to have Tiff. She's telling me a lot, and she's over the radio telling me when I should stop to pull or when I should start to pull, so that's quite helpful.
I kind of guided her throughout the race, and she was great, she reacted straight away. Her bunch skills are really good. I had her covering some of the early moves, and she was even there in the final with us doing the first part of the lead out, so I was quite impressed. Ever since I've known Tanja, I knew she had the general idea. For sure, there's a few things we need to teach from the tactical front, but her general idea was really good, and she was really helpful within the team, so it's exciting to see.
Yeah, so I guess I did my job.
You pleased?
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, absolutely. It was fun.
Now, I watch a lot of bike racing, as you might expect, particularly glued to the Giro at the moment, which is a fantastic race this edition. Yates is something else, and delivering on early promise. But anyway, I digress. I watch a lot of bike racing, and but I tend to watch the race. I tend not to watch one particular rider, and I think that's probably what most people do. But this time, Shane, I spent a lot of time watching one particular rider because I was looking out for Tanja and how she was doing, and she did so well, so attentive to the position of her teammates, looking round the whole time, really alert. I mean, she really looked as though she was right on it, right on that job of being a domestique. And being a good domestique, that is actually, I know everybody says this, it's an underrated skill, but it kind of is an underrated skill, because a good domestique, it's a hard job to do, isn't it? And a hard job to do really, really well.
I think it comes down to finding the right person with the right work ethic. So being a good domestique should be easy if you have the good work ethic, but finding a good domestique is the hard part. So a lot of people cycling, you need to be in it for yourself as well. It's a lot of, there's only one rider across the line there. But you need to find somebody with that work ethic who will work and give up their race wins or their opportunities for the ride leader or for the team leader.
Yeah.
And that can change. That can change in a heartbeat. We saw that with Mitchelton Scott. Yes, over. So Chavez out the back, and now Yates is now. So they have to change roles pretty quick. So somebody with good work ethic who can even spot that on the road within a split second. But it is a tough job, though. There's no pressure to win at the end. but you've got to be there for the entire race or as much as you can until you have got nothing left to give. And then you swing off and you'll be rolling in across that finish line, maybe half an hour behind, maybe 15 minutes when they're packing up or the podium is being done. So that'd be the hard part. Nobody really gets to see what you do at the pointy end of the race. So it takes a special kind of person to get that done for sure.
Yeah. I mean, Nathan, you run a team, so you'll know about roles within teams. It's as much a psychological or an attitudinal thing as a skill thing, I think, to be a good domestique, isn't it? As Shane just said there, really.
I almost think that their job is sometimes harder. They're always nose to the wind. They're always the one making sacrifices, guessing how far they can actually sacrifice for the team. So, it's a tough role to play. And I've seen a lot of riders not make their career because they weren't willing actually to play second fiddle. Yeah. They said, I'm not going to, it was the whoever's show, you know what I mean? Their career was always about, the mirror, what was in the mirror rather than the whole team. You know what I mean? And they weren't able to put that aside for the bigger picture, which was if you're going to, I don't know. I saw those pictures in the women's race, in the Yorkshire race, and was like watching that final sprint and knowing how many team members had gotten them to that moment of a sprint. Yeah. It's not just that sprint that got that there. You know what I mean? It was so many sacrifices up to that moment. It's a lot of puzzle pieces to put together and a lot of sacrifice overall.
No, she did really well, actually. And she looks to me, I'm no DS. I do watch a lot of bike racing, but she looks to me as though she's the real deal, Tanja. She looks like she really has got what it takes to become accepted both as a valuable team member and within the peloton, which is also very, very important, as Leah learned last year. This sounds incredibly boring, actually, but it's super important. And this is the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations, which is an initiative that came out of the European Union. I'm sure everybody has had just as many begging emails from all those people that that seem to have your details that you didn't quite realise had your details, actually. You've had all those begging emails saying, please stay in touch. I'm delighted in immediately trashing 98% of them, as I'm sure most people have done, actually. But there is one really interesting thing to come out of this, Shane, and that's Zwift have announced, as part of their GDPR compliance regime, things that they're doing to be compliant with this law, because everybody's got to be compliant with this law, even if you're not a European company. But one thing they have announced publicly in a small forum is they're working towards a public API. What might it give us that we don't have at the moment? I think what I was getting at, I think I said public API. I've probably got that wrong, actually. I think what Zwift have announced is that they're going to be working. They're going to have what do they call it? Like a developers group. I think what I think it means is, all those like super cool add-ons you can get for Strava, like Velo Viewer and Strava Sticks and all of that stuff that just deepens your Strava experience. I would now expect, if this thing goes ahead, that they've said that they're probably going to do, that we're going to see lots of like cool tools for Zwift like that, or lots more.
I'll go the other way. I think we'll see less initially, because this is a bit of pain for long-term gain at the user level. So at the moment, pretty much anyone can grab the data or grab the packets and do what they're doing with it and make cool little tools. We've seen that even with Gold Rush and things like that. This is just going to regulate that and give Zwift a little bit more control of the data that they're sending out to people, which is a good thing. So early on, it might stifle a bit of development. But I think once people are on the development platform and they're a certified API developer, then there's going to be, I guess, correct documentation, what they can and can't do. And then we might see some really cool stuff coming in the future. So it might take a bit of time. Yeah.
Development platform, that's the phrase I was grasping for and failing to get. Nathan, you've seen this in the games world. I think Shane's right, actually. I think stuff might close down early, but then medium term or long term we're going to get some super cool stuff. Do you think that's the way it'll go?
Right now, I I think it's like Shane said, kind of just cowboy shooting however they can, wild, wild west a little bit there. And then like how integrated does it actually get? And how well does it actually work when a third party does do something with it? So with more attention paid, more robust, and more in line with programming, and you'll have some really cool things that the community and registered third parties can make. So I think it's a good thing, but it'll be slow moving up front, like you guys were saying, for sure.
Okay, well, that's our little public responsibility slot on GDPR. It is important, actually. I mean, it sounds boring, but it is important. I got hold of Frank from CVR and Glenn from Zwift Power, who are the big kind of third-party data users on Zwift, just to ask them whether, the average Zwifter would see any difference after May the 25th. Is it the 25th, Shane? 29th? May the 25th? Anyway,
Yes.
End of May, when GDPR actually becomes law. And they said, no, there shouldn't be any interruption in service and nobody should see any change. Frank said his rankings might be affected a little bit at the beginning. And I think there'll be some bumps in the road as this legislation works through, but hopefully for Zwifters, we won't see too much change. Okay, well, let's spend a little time as we get towards the end of the Zwiftcast talking about the enormous row, and it was a big row, that hit women's racing, in particular Team Fearless, over the past few days. And for those who missed this, well, you're probably lucky, but for those who missed it or maybe only caught part of it, here's a kind of summary of what went on. I was passed a message from the admins of Team Fearless to a team member asking her to resign. The important bits of the email said this: none of the admins knew that you are transgender. One requirement for joining the team is biologically female. We recognised that we should have used wording making our requirement clearer. The intention is to prevent people having an unfair advantage and creating drama and speculation about the integrity of the team. Very quickly, the identity of the rider emerged, and it was none other than Gillian Bearden. She's fully transitioned and has been for some years. She competes in real life as an elite athlete. She wrote that she'd been welcomed with open arms by the women's racing community. And, what's more, she's been the subject of the medical testing that led directly to the International Olympic Committee's drafting of their trans policy. That policy is too involved to outline in full here, but essentially trans athletes must have testosterone levels in line with agreed limits as set out by the IOC. If they meet those requirements, they can compete. Full stop. No arguments. Cue a huge social media storm, with a big outpouring of support for Gillian, a lot of invective directed towards Team Fearless, and it must be said, some voices which were not sympathetic to Gillian, claiming that trans athletes still get an unfair advantage despite what the IOC guidelines say. The point was also made that Team Fearless should be able to set and enforce their own policies, regardless of anything the IOC or any other sports governing body has to say about the matter. With me so far? But it's not over. Team Fearless then released a statement after the row which pretty much reiterated its position and pointed to the lack of governing body around Zwift racing and limited resources available to a volunteer team. And then, in a further twist, around 20 members of Team Fearless released their own statement, pretty much disassociating themselves from the team leadership and referencing the breakup of the team. Because many commenters on social media had asked the same question, I approached Zwift and asked them if they had anything to say on the matter. They released a statement which included this key phrase: we're continuing to work with all teams and clubs on Zwift to encourage them to adopt established competition policies like those held by the IOC and embrace an overarching spirit of inclusion above all else. Well, a few days later, I managed to speak to Gillian. Let me start by just asking, just give me your reaction to what happened with Team Fearless and the events subsequent to that.
Yeah, I mean, it was just, it really came as a shock to me. You always have a fear of getting rejected.
Right.
And I've been rejected by family members, by friends, and, I've had, in general, overwhelmingly amazing support in my local cycling community.
Yeah.
But in something like this, I was just afraid that, I was just going to get rejected. And for no reason, for either hatred or it's, there's some bigotry in there or not understanding religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And so, I just really tried to just remain low just because of that reason.
Yeah.
And a fear that something might happen.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I'm sure many people can. I mean, I think there might be some bigotry around. I'm sure you're in a better position to judge that than I am. And there might be some hatred around, and the same applies to that. But I also think there is an enormous amount of just plain ignorance. And I don't mean rude ignorance. I mean a failure to understand for what it's like for athletes in your position and the rules that regulate how you are permitted to race according to, no less a body than the IOC. So some of this, I think, does stem, doesn't it, from, what can we call it, a lack of education?
Let's just go back maybe 2 years. 2 years ago, a big media blast like this, I would say that there was 40% more hatred, bigotry, ignorance out there then. This last time, it was kind of nice because with the work I've done as people have moved culturally more towards acceptance of trans men and women, there's more awareness in it as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's very encouraging to hear that you feel the levels of understanding are increasing. But let me just put a counterpoint to you, Gillian, because, this did come up. People say, oh, yeah, but she's got some kind of residual advantage from her biological physiology when she was of a different gender. I mean, yes, how do you answer that?
Yeah, so I think that's the easiest thing for people to grab and use as a point of saying, no, this can't be or this can't happen. But for me, specifically in cycling, if we just take the anatomy and we take, bigger bone, bigger this and taller, well, that doesn't really work for cycling. That's a disadvantage. So,
but maybe lung capacity does. I mean, this is what all the Facebook doctors were saying. Oh, she's got bigger lungs. She's got bigger lungs than the average woman.
So while I maintain obviously the same lung capacity as far as the size and everything, but on a scientific level, and I'm not a doctor here, but my VO2 max and lung capacity has diminished by about 14%, which is quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I've lost a lot of power, and we've been able to show this in research through different VO2 max tests.
Yeah. One other thing that I'd like to hear your view on, and again, a lot of clever clogs on social media have said this, and that is, if Team Fearless want to run a team according to the rules that Team Fearless decide are the correct rules, why the hell shouldn't they? And if they say they don't want a transgendered athlete on their team, then they're entirely within their rights to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. I would agree as much as it doesn't make sense. People are, they can have their own opinion and they can do what they want to do. Yeah, a lot of people do not agree, obviously, and over 40 women left Team Fearless over this.
Yeah.
And one admin. So, a lot of people do not agree with this. And I don't think that's the norm. I don't think that's the way the culture is heading.
Let me ask you finally, would you wish that this had or hadn't happened now that a little time has gone past? Do you think some positivity has come out of this to make up for the shock and upset that you suffered in effectively being booted off the team.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it happened. I wouldn't have changed it. I'm an advocate, and I have been for years. And so I don't know why I'm filling these shoes. It was just kind of just chosen, and it's been that way for years. But I have a platform and a voice, and I think I'm a good advocate in the sport arena to talk on behalf of trans athletes. So no, I'm happy it happened, and I'm as much as it's emotionally extremely difficult, and it'll take a little bit to rebound and get through all the messages and all that stuff. We brought awareness. It'll be fun.
Interesting. Excellent. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure and indeed, I hope this doesn't sound patronising in any way, but an education for me to talk to you because, like I say, I was shamefully unaware of the intricacies and the arguments and indeed the science and the regulation around this issue, and it's been fascinating for me to learn about it. Thank you very much indeed for your time. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. It's been great talking to you too. Take care.
You too. Shane, I know you've been kind of reluctant to get involved in this in public, very wisely, probably. But I mean, and you're close to Von, and Von, races or certainly rides competitively, or is very interested in women's racing. I mean, where do you stand on the whole thing, or is that just a glib question, really? I mean, do you have anything useful to add, or what do you think you could add that's useful?
I'll be brutally honest and say I have really nothing useful to add. I really don't. I've been watching the threads, and it's really been disheartening to see a team implode. I love watching the community grow in Zwift. I love watching the racing happening and the small rivalries between teams and things like that. Like, I love seeing all that happen in a virtual world, and to see a team like that implode or have these kind of issues, and then the negativity that just spilled from that. I want the best for everyone, but I don't think there's a best for everyone in this scenario, because somebody's going to be either unhappy or have an opinion or say something that's other people don't agree with. Look, I'll sit on the fence with this one and just hope the best for everybody. I can't really relate personally on this one at all, so I think I'll just leave it at that. I just hope that it gets resolved. And look, there's been a lot of headway with the IOC. We've seen the Casta Semenya in athletics, and hopefully that's, I guess, set some groundwork at least for these people to work through the issues that are involved there. And look, let's just get out and ride our bikes, because that's why we love it. Let's just remember that's why we're here, and we virtualized that. So let's have fun doing that as well. So I'm hoping for a good outcome soon for all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you on that, Shane, really. And let's get out and ride our bikes. It's always a great mantra, but that's a simple thing to do, and it's not a simple world anymore, is it? I mean, it just isn't. And these things are going to come up. I mean, and we can't solve them here, but maybe we should just look at what we think Zwift's attitude to it ought to be, and actually, should Zwift take some action against Team Fearless, as some other people have suggested? I mean, the thing is, Nathan, Zwift did release a statement about this, and it was not, shall we say, well, let's just say, I think if Team Fearless went to Zwift and asked for a favour tomorrow, it's almost certain it's not going to be granted. Let's just put it that way. So, should Zwift, in your view, show more of a leadership role than they've done in releasing a statement? I mean, the statement did pretty much make clear what their position was, and that was they weren't happy to see somebody thrown out of a team for this reason.
Yeah, penalizing people for on either side of this issue is that's a tough one. Like, and when I say this issue, I want to be so incredibly clear about this, okay? If you read the article celebrating Jillian's efforts for transgender athletes, it does a great job of doing good journalism and it asks the competitors with Jillian what they thought. And they said, we welcome her as a woman. We welcome her. And there's inclusivity and a feeling of we welcome you. But there's at the end of that, there's also this tension that they feel like there's something that might be unfair. And that's from the women. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm just talking about what a group, there's a large group of women athletes out there that are asking about fair play. And that may be what Fearless is trying to represent. And as a private team, they should have a right to that expression and a place to express that. In the same way that Jillian has a right to expression and a place to express that. And if we try and make rules about that expression, we are in the wrong. And if we penalize for that expression, we are in the wrong. That's my 100% my that both are within their rights of expression, and it's not limiting Jillian's freedom, and vice versa. It's not limiting Team Fearless's freedom. And if we start pushing in on that, I think we're actually breaking some pretty basic, like really high values in the West on First Amendment and the individuals out there. So in the way that we want to celebrate everything that Jillian's about, like we need to also respect on all sides of that, on that coin, because there isn't just one side to it. So
yeah. Well, I get where you're coming from on this, and let's just close on this with me asking you a really super difficult question. Say you did run a women's team, and say 3 members of that women's team came to you and said, we've discovered we've now got a transgendered athlete on our team. We didn't know she was transgendered. We don't think it's fair. We want you to ask her to resign from the team. What would you do as a team owner? What would you do in that position? And you know, you can't say I see both sides. You've got to say I would. I would make X or Y decision.
No, I wouldn't kick her off for the team. I would follow the rules of the governing body of cycling in which I compete in as a team. That's I would follow the rules of the governing body of cycling for that team. So that's what I would do because it's about competition. If it's about competition, if it's about fairness and competition, they set the rules. And that's what I would go by.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately, you know, we look to the sports governing bodies for leadership on difficult areas like this. And even though it's not a complete picture and a total solution to every single quandary that may be presented by this quite complicated area, the IOC has produced a set of guidelines with some quite precise, chemical levels in the body that have to be met. And I guess my position on this is, if it's good enough for the IOC, it's good enough for me. But goodness me, it's a tricky issue for sure, and it does raise passions. And of course, if passions get raised in cycling, we are finding increasingly they get raised in Zwift. So, interesting one. Okay, let's line things up. Shane, what apart from keeping wrapped up nice and warm and getting back from your little mini tour of Oz, what else are you up to?
Always busy, flat out. As you mentioned earlier on in the show, Eurobike isn't too far away, so it's a bit of a ramp up to Eurobike. There's going to be a lot happening. A few giveaways. I've got a lot of stuff that I've procured from certain Zwift events, a few stickers and things. So I've been doing a few giveaways on Zwift Riders. So if you remember, you're not a member of Zwift Riders over on Facebook, get in that group. Be sure to see a few posts I'm putting up there and a few grabs. We hit almost at 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. So things are going really, really well. Still continuing to put out either long content plus short content. I actually even published a video during this Zwiftcast. So there's always little snippets going out there. And I wrote down 50 videos I've got lined up to do. So 50? There's always something. Yeah, I've got any time of the day I could be working on any number of videos I've got written down here. And that's not with the new things coming out. So tons of stuff going on. Jump on board, follow along. It's all good.
a list of 50 videos I had to make. That would have me verging on panic, Nathan. Actually, I think. Anyway, what are you up to?
More riding out the Zwift, trying to get my wheels. That's what I'm trying to go after those wheels. Being concerned about whether or not I'm going to be lynched from not being on one side or another of this Team Fearless issue. I mean, so those are the two things I'm up to right now. What else is happening?
Well, we were talking before we started recording, and you were saying your training's fallen off a cliff over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Why? What's happening in your life that's made your training decline so rapidly?
Not racing full time right now, and the reality of. I tell this to my athletes a lot. Training is about imagination. You're imagining a future of ordered space that has got some sort of awesome goal that you're after. And without that goal-oriented training, absolute suffering is not necessarily in the moment that motivating. So, getting after it, getting a couple of goals out there is probably... I do have some later season goals, perhaps to get after. So we'll see if that motivates me to start riding a little bit more structured. Maybe that's where we need these artificial intelligent, training plans. Where's the training plans at? Let's go. Here we go.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've always found fear to be the greatest motivator to train, actually. So, you need some kind of event where, you fear coming last, which gets your ass out the front door to actually go and ride a bike in some kind of...
Isn't that just the waistline fear? I have an event.
Well, I've got that as well.
There's an event that's taking place right here.
I've definitely got that. I've definitely got waistline anxiety at the moment. I did put it on over winter, which I normally do, but it's normally gone by now, but it hasn't. So, yeah, things are not good in the waistline department. Shane, great to talk to you as ever. It feels like ages actually since we've talked, but really good to have you back on board. Thanks very much indeed for your contribution today, and the same from you, Nathan. It only remains for me to say see you next time, boys, and thanks very much indeed.
No worries. Thanks, boys. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you again soon.
And that's it for episode 49. Thank you for watching or listening. Just the usual reminder that whilst we're very grateful for the support that we receive from Zwift, that support does not influence anything we say on the Zwiftcast. Thanks again for watching or listening.